The Albanese government is in such strife. Now, I know you like Jim Chalmers, Cameron, but I have to say...
I do.
Yeah, well, he gave a speech abusing Opposition Leader Peter Dutton a couple of days ago, calling him divisive, dangerous, disqualified from being a leader. That speech must have backfired, I think, Cameron, because this is how Chalmers started his press conference today, both denying he was actually distracted with all this hate preaching he was doing, but then doubling down on it. Here he is.
I'm very happy to come to that specific question, but before I do, I want to say something about the speech that I gave on Monday night. 90% of it was about paying tribute to the memory of John Curtin and talking overwhelmingly about cost of living and the future of our economy. But I don't resolve one bit from the remarks that I made about Peter Dutton on Monday night. Peter Dutton is a divisive figure. And I believe he is too divisive to be the Prime Minister of a great country like ours.
I have to say that sounds like him, Jim Chalmers, trying to have it both ways. I made a mistake devoting so much of my speech to attacking Peter Dutton, but here, let me attack him some more.
Well, Andrew, I'm a great fan of Jim Chalmers, and I think in this instance, Jim has overstepped the mark, and I think he's recognised that in his own comments today. Jim's better than this. Jim isn't a nasty individual like Albo. He's not a cheap shot guy like some of the other frontbenchers are. Jim's much better than that. So I think in this instance he's overstepped the mark. But clearly what's happening, Andrew, is there are leadership hopefuls looking at how weak this Prime Minister is. This Prime Minister's stumbling from news poll to news poll, tripping through policy things like the GARs and visas. People are worried that Albo's actually not going to make it to the line. So everyone in the Labor Party who's actually got a leadership baton in their back pocket is jostling, including Jim Chalmers.
I wonder, Michael, whether Jim Chalmers is getting a little aggressive and abusive because the economy is not doing what he'd like. I mean, today you saw inflation coming down, but not as much as expected or hoped by Labor, from 3.8% to 3.5%, still above what's needed for interest rate cuts. Food prices actually went up, but electricity down a lot, partly because of a $1,000 pre-election rebate on power prices in Queensland, plus the Albanese government's $300 rebate that's kicking in already in Western Australia and Queensland. So is this a real fall in interest rates? Is this an argument for cutting interest rates this side of Christmas as Labor desperately was hoping?
Not in the least, Andrew. Look, this is treading water. And of course, the next set of figures will also have that energy rebate. So expect those to be also on a downward trajectory. Look, in terms of, Chalmers, I know Cameron's a fan, but I've got to say, look, these attacks on Dutton remind me of the attacks on Tony Abbott. They're exactly the same. And you talk about divisiveness. I mean, who took the voice to the country and split the country? It wasn't Dutton. It was Albanese. So the bottom line is that they're under pressure and they are desperate to find an angle to attack Dutton. In terms of the Treasurer himself, look, I've always thought he's a bit vacuous. When he wrote that silly monthly essay saying that he was out to reform capitalism, a system that's worked for 300 years that has given wealth and given enormous prosperity to everybody. Jim Chalmers is going to come along with his PhD and reform it in the space of 3 years. So I think he's got a lot of hubris about him, and I think these inflation figures are not going the way he expected, and I think he's panicking.
Well, I tell you what, if Labor does squeak in with the support of the Greens, with the Greens egging them on, he might have to start trying to reinvent capitalism, and beware. Michael Costa, Cameron Milner, thank you both for your time.